Did you know for Sleepy Hollow, Johnny Depp adopted Goldeneye, the horse that played Gunpowder, Ichabod Crane's horse in this film, when he heard it was going to be put down? 2. Johnny Depp initially found the idea of Christina Ricci being his love interest in this film to be rather odd, seeing as he's known her since she was 9 years old. They first met on the set of Mermaids, as Depp was dating Winona Ryder at the time. 3. Johnny Depp did all of his own stunts for the final scene, where he is dragged by the horse. He had bulletproof clothing underneath his wardrobe. 4. It was only after being cast as the Headless Horseman that Christopher Walken admitted to director Tim Burton that he actually did not know how to ride a horse. 5. This is the first adaptation of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow that doesn't involve the actor playing the Headless Horseman having to conceal his head in the cloak, thanks to advancement in technology. The head of the actor was covered with a blue mask that was deleted by means of computer graphics. The collar was also created with CGI to match the flow of the robe. Did you know for The Thing? According to John Carpenter, he takes all his failed movies pretty hard, but the film's initial negative reception disappointed him the most. Not only was it a box office bomb, but critics panned its gory effects, tone, and characters. Vincent Canby called it too phony, looking to be disgusting. It qualifies only as instant junk. Dave Keir wrote that it was hard to tell who's being attacked and hard to care. Likewise, Roger Ebert was disappointed by the superficial characterizations and the implausible behavior and dismissed the film as nothing more than an alien knockoff. Carpenter was particularly upset when Christian Nyby, the director of the original The Thing from Another World, publicly denounced Carpenter's version, saying, "If you want blood, go to the slaughterhouse." All in all, it's a terrific commercial for J&B Scotch. In response to the commercial bombing of the film, the studio canceled the multi-picture deal they had with Carpenter, who noted that his career would have been different if the film had been successful. Not surprisingly, he was extremely relieved when the film enjoyed a rich cult success following its home video release, along with the critical re-evaluation it received. Did you know for Scream? The party scene near the end of the film runs 42 minutes long. It was shot over the course of 21 days from the time the sun set to the time it rose. After it wrapped, the crew had t-shirts made that read, "I survived." Scene 118, which was the name of the scene during shooting. The cast and crew jokingly called it the longest night in horror history. 2. The film was released in December, 5 days before Christmas. The studio did this because during the holiday season, family-friendly movies are usually released, and the studio wanted to give the horror audience something to see during a time when no horror movies would be out. It opened at number 4, with $6.4 million, which led the studio to believe the film had flopped. However, the film's good word of mouth is what led to its success at the box office. With every week it went up, or stayed at the same place in the box office. By the end of its run, it ended up making over $100 million at the US box office. 3. The use of caller ID increased more than threefold after the release of this film. 4. Joaquin Phoenix turned down the role of Billy Loomis. Did you know for The Ring, the cursed video is available as an Easter egg on the DVD? Select Look here and press down and your cursor will disappear. Press Enter. This has an interesting feature. Your remote control is disabled. Once the video has started playing, you can't stop it, pause it, fast forward it, or return to the menu. Unless you turn off the TV, you're forced to watch the whole thing. When it's over, the DVD returns to the menu. Then you hear a phone ring twice before you're given control over your remote again. 2. Gore Verbinski deliberately chose not to cast major stars as any of the main or supporting characters, as he wanted the film to be discovered by audiences. Naomi Watts, Martin Henderson, and Amber Tamblyn would receive retroactive recognition for this film. 3. For the choice of the film's color, it was decided that everything was to be tinged with the color green to give the film a sickly, unnatural feeling. Sets were also lit in a way that none of the characters have a shadow, to create an almost subconscious sense of creepiness. 4. Sold more than 2 million DVD copies in the US alone in its first 24 hours of video release. Did you know for Gremlins, the set for Kingston Falls is the same one used for Back to the Future? Both movies were filmed on the Universal Studios backlot. 2. Originally, Stripe and Gizmo were the same character. This changed when executive producer Steven Spielberg insisted one of the Gremlins be a good guy with whom the audience could identify. Director Joe Dante expresses that this decision was the reason why the film is fondly remembered. 3. The Santa speech proved to be controversial, and studio executives insisted upon its removal. because they felt it was too ambiguous as to whether it was supposed to be funny or sad. Director Joe Dante, however, stubbornly refused to take the scene out, saying it represented this movie as a whole, which had a combination of horrific and comedic elements. Executive producer Steven Spielberg did not like the scene, but despite his creative control, he viewed this movie as Dante's project and allowed him to leave it in. 4. This movie is credited with inspiring the MPAA to create the PG-13 rating. Many felt the movies were too violent for a PG rating, but not violent enough for an R. Did you know for The Hunger Games, Donald Sutherland saw the script by accident, and after reading it, he lobbied for the role of President Snow because the script reminded him of Stanley Kubrick's Paths of Glory. He wrote a letter of plea to the director Gary Ross, explaining what the character of Snow meant for the narrative and why he should be cast. It worked, and Ross was so impressed by Sutherland's insights that he wrote 2 scenes into the script based on what Sutherland had written. 2. Liam Hemsworth and Jennifer Lawrence, both natural blondes, dyed their hair brown for their roles in the film, while Josh Hutcherson, a natural brunette, dyed his hair blonde for his part. 3. Co-writer and director Gary Ross has stated that his decision to go with shaky cam work had a lot to do with the urgency of what's going on and to reflect Katniss's point of view. He also mentioned that he wanted to avoid a polished, static camera look at all costs, since that would reduce the violence to mere entertainment and be completely contrary to the movie's intention. 4. Jennifer Lawrence was initially cast as the lead in Savages, but dropped out to do this film instead. Did you know for I Am Legend, before it was finally greenlit with Will Smith as the lead and Francis Lawrence directing, the closest the project came to being made was in early 1998, when Warner Brothers gave an initial okay for a version starring Arnold Schwarzenegger with Ridley Scott directing. The studio's art direction and special effects workers had even begun working on a design for the apocalyptic mutant creatures. However, some high-profile, big-budget failures for Warner Brothers and the huge, for that time, initial budget of $125 million led to the project being put into turnaround. If the movie had been made from Mark Protasevich's original screenplay, it would have differed from the 2007 version in 3 major ways. It was to be set in the Bay Area of California, it would have been more of an action movie and less of a drama, and it would have been filmed with the intent of being R-rated, which would have possibly drawn in fewer viewers. 2. Steven Spielberg visited the set one day. It made everyone very nervous. Spielberg's first movie, Duel, was written by Richard Matheson, the author of I Am Legend.